Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Rslash Tales from Tech Support. In today's episode, thinking outside the box. Where the hell is it? The mysterious headache. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Thinking outside the box. So I'm pretty new to IT, but I think this story is too good to pass up. I worked for a big IT company that provided support to a number of businesses. The project I worked on was a really big client, and very professional. Think, be tie ready in case client pops by, at least pre-COVID. Anyway, I had a user call in who was very nice about it, but had been bounced around a couple times between level 1 and the application support team, and was unable to do any work because her application was missing a crucial button. I looked at the ticket and thought I may as well take a crack at it. I remote in, and the first thing I notice is that normally everything is so tiny in the remote application, but I can see everything clearly on this person's machine. I open up the application and, just as expected, no button. I go to open PowerShell and it too is extra big. Thinking that it couldn't possibly be the case, I open up the display settings. The ratio was set much lower than it would be normally. I put it back to the standard and voila, button is back. I up the text size without altering the display ratio to accommodate the user's sight. We had a good laugh about it. Good lesson for me early on: check the simplest possible solution first. Definitely a case that will stick with me. My mom was editing a post on a site I own for the local community, and she was like, all the text are too small. I can't even read it, the site is messed up somehow. She'd somehow went to 50% on Firefox. I'm like, Ma, all your websites are going to look messy, it's not my site. IRC, Firefox remembers the zoom level for each site. So it might only happen to yours, because that was the one she originally zoomed out on. If you mistakenly hold Control key down, maybe after copying and pasting, and scroll the mouse wheel, that increases/decreases the zoom. Easy way to reset it: Control +0, 0. Ticket closure remarks. Suggest reading glasses to end user. All kidding aside, good find. I worked for a hospital that had so many blind nurses in the surgery units that the standard display resolution for their monitors was set to 854 x 480 on a 19 monitor. They also used a complete trash medical program that couldn't scale, so it was like using RDP without scaling, and having the monitor only show 1/4 of the screen at a time. And again, these were the people doing surgery on hearts. Sounds like a design problem. The user needs to read the program from afar and be shown the whole screen. The current version and/or combination of monitor and program does not meet this need. That is not a user problem, it's an opportunity to improve the design. That reminds me of the time I had SQL in university. Professor gave us all some program to use with databases, and everyone was free to bring their own computer if they wanted to. I was using a then new Surface Pro 3, and the screen is so high resolution that it has some zoom built in. I was trying to change some value. The button made a little window pop up, and then I'd enter everything, and then I'd close the window again. And it never worked. I asked 5 different students and none of them could figure it out, so I asked the professor, and he took a look. He watched me to it and saw I was doing something wrong, but couldn't quite catch what I was doing wrong either. He pulled it up on his computer on the projector and it finally clicked. I didn't have the OK button, and I was closing it with the X for lack of a better button, canceling the changes. He made the pop-up slightly taller and suddenly, I had a whole new button I didn't know I should have. Wow! It was a Java-based program, and the professor quipped something along the lines of "so much for Java running on any device." It remembered the window size within the same session, so I only had to resize it once per day I used it, which was alright of a workaround. I have a couple of EMRs at clients, and they just don't know how to handle display scaling. It even breaks printing on one of them. Had a user who liked to magnify to 250% on her 11-inch laptop and refused to use multiple displays. Remoting into their machine was an absolute nightmare, and for all of their issues. Or always remember to think inside the box first. Then go to the outside the box things. Sometimes it needs a fresh look on something, smiley face. Check the simplest possible solution first. Probably a good idea for all of life. Nice to be reminded. Had this happen with poorly coded websites and browser windows not full screen. Where the hell is it? Back in the mid to late aughts, I would spend my day driving from client to client solving whatever ailed them. Primarily the 5 to 50 person office businesses, though there were many outliers. One day I got a call from a new client. They were a referral, as almost all my clients are, and I had never been there before. The issue was, and I quote, "Our network S**CKs." I arrive, and sure enough, their network does S**CK pings timeout, print jobs fail to arrive, the web will work, then not. They had a few dozen workstations spread throughout various rooms in their building, with an actual network closet. A completely unlabeled network closet. Everything in the network closet checks out, and after doing some due diligence, I figured there's got to be a rogue device in the network causing issues. So I start unplugging jacks. Eventually I find that unplugging a certain jack fixes the issue. Great. Now I just have to figure out where the hell in the building that line goes. Everyone had left, so I can't just walk around asking who lost connectivity. So I proceed to wander the building, mapping their entire network. After a whole lot of crawling around and sneezing, I discover the culprit. Somebody had plugged a cheap $20 hub from Best Buy into the network port in order to add a new printer to the network. Extending their network with a cheap hub instead of a switch caused their entire network to go down, and to pay me for hours to fix the issue. I replaced it with a new switch, and all was well with the world. The hub had worked for a while, but eventually the toll had to be paid. But they loved me after that, so it worked out for me. I can give you one better. Doing an infrastructure upgrade. Did a like-for-like swap on one switch, network goes down. Revert to the old switch, network works. Forvert to the new switch, network goes down when I connect port 6, which runs to the maintenance manager's office. Turns out that the old switch was fast Ethernet, manager's office was capable of gig Ethernet, and when you plugged the new gig switch it kicked off STP, spanning tree protocol, failures. Cure was to lock it to 100/auto. Which ran fine, 0 errors. This is of course a wiring error, but not my job. Hint, we went past a fiber-connected switch with the copper run. My call would be to drop copper or fiber from the warehouse switch back to the manager's office, but not my call, I was just boots in field. I had a similar experience back in 1999. I got a call from an office with networking issues. Their IT guy was a big Novell fan, but didn't really know networks and said he was going back to school. So they found me. I found the problem pretty quickly. Most of the cables were crimped by hand, and there was one bad crimp. Fixed that and everything worked like expected. A lot has changed since then, including major partnership changes, but I'm still their IT guy. Had a dual boot PC that apparently had great network connectivity when booted into Linux, but when booted into Windows, the network connecting apps would keep pausing for long timeouts and retries, and sometimes the PC's network port would lock up completely, requiring a power cycle. Eventually, I figured that Linux distros are much more ready to silently fall back from 1 gigabit to 100 megabits and automatically update their configuration to keep it that way, which is not necessarily good. The fix, after trying many other things, was to unplug all the connectors along the line, polish the connector pins with earbuds soaked in isopropanol, tell Linux that 1 gigabit was now okay, then all was fine. Things I would never figure out for $200, please, Alex. So how much money did they lose in lost productivity in paying for your services, while trying to save a bit of money on a cheap hub rather than a proper switch or new cable run? I was the cheap part of that. I have to imagine shutting down for half a day had to be tens of thousands. They probably paid me $500 bucks. But eventually the toll had to be paid. As it has been for countless generations past, and so it shall be for generations to come. There are neither endings nor beginnings to network troubleshooting, but it was a beginning. Ah, hubs. That takes me back. The faster your network, the harder you hit the wall. The hub had worked for a while, but eventually the toll had to be paid. At least it worked for a while. The last time I was told to expand the network in a small room with a hub instead of a switch because that was all the user had on hand, the network went down almost instantly. And the person who said use the hub was the IT manager. The mysterious headache. I'm an IT for a big company which also owns some sort of rehabilitation clinic with a psych ward. One of my funniest support stories came from there. The clinic was freshly rebuilt, and we got a couple of new doctors. A user reports she gets a headache from the router behind her. I said okay, I will look at it. Before I go there I talked with our team lead, if he knows of any extra router in the offices. He said no. Maybe some of the in-house technician mounted an access point in her office. I drove to her office and asked what was the problem. She pointed to the LAN socket behind her and said, those were giving her a headache. I said there is nothing patched to it, not even power, nothing, but she insisted it gave her headache. In the end she just placed something in front of it and tadah, no more headache. We had a great laugh about her and learned that psych docs are kinda special. Somebody heard about Wi-Fi sensitivity and decided to have it. Wi-Fi sensitivity isn't real, but the headache/nausea/rash/asthma/other side effects are real, and the patient doesn't intentionally decide to get sick. If people believe that something is harmful, then they are more likely to experience symptoms as a result of it. Once that happens, it's very difficult to logic themselves out of that situation because they are feeling genuine pain in response to a stimulus. It's just that the stimulus is being aware of the Wi-Fi, rather than the Wi-Fi itself. I tried to explain it to her, but she wouldn't get it, so we found a workaround with something standing in front of the socket. We put in a permanent, lightweight, asynchronous channel, eclectic bridging obfuscator, a placebo. I was gonna suggest a new top-of-the-line P14CE80 model. Whatever it was, it worked better than anything we've tried so far. Lunatics running the asylum. You're right, there even is a doctor who has a stuffed monkey, and the patients need to greet him before the doctor talk with them. Sounds psychosomatic. Doctor, heal thyself. I used to work at a science park. That's a group of companies all together who have something to do with science. This place started years before Wi-Fi was a thing. So Wi-Fi became a thing, and it was installed all through the science park. And several tenants who were, yes, scientists, claimed that they were getting ill from the Wi-Fi. Scientists. We lied and told them we turned off the routers. Suddenly, no illness from the Wi-Fi. Love when people convince themselves they're getting exposed to radiation, or whatever, from electronics. They are getting exposed to radiation, but it's non-ionizing, so it shouldn't cause cancerous mutations. Considering the millions of other things causing cancer rate increases these days like pollution, chronic obesity, etc., I feel it's unlikely that wireless devices are causing it. My friend's parents are some of those people. They apparently scan their house with an EMF meter every night before bed. They also reluctantly use Wi-Fi, but they turn it off when it's not actively being used. Not because of any security reasons, plausible, but because it gives the missus a headache, apparently. But also, apparently she's fine with a smartphone? And a microwave? Yeah, she reads too many fringe articles in her free time. In a prior century, there was a TV show called Marcus Welby, MD. It ran in Sunday nights and they often had some fairly esoteric illness that had to be handled. Come Monday morning and real doctors across the US would get calls from patients who now had that same disease, no matter how rare it was or only originated if you were in some sub-Saharan desert. IIRC, Netherlands equivalent of FDA, have warned that several types of COVID/5G shielding medallions/necklaces etc. on sale there are positively dangerous. Not because such give a false sense of security, but because they are significantly more radioactive than ambient. Way above safe occupational limits. Like a bunch of dental x-rays every day. You did check back of socket lest enclosure concealed a pinhole spy cam? Winky face. In my country the crazies have their own organizations, there's even a company that has a name that gullible people confuse with a government body name. Last year they managed to fool a principal of a high school to buy Radiant and Proctition for all the school's Wi-Fi access points. Think metal mesh cages you put over the access points. These cages cost around €300 each. Imagine his surprise when all teachers and students started complaining about bad Wi-Fi connections. Layer 8 networking problem. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.